welcome back to another episode of Tech Pro Unicorn Podcast. I am your host, Michael Grace. Today, I am joined by Chandler Walker. Chandler, when I was reading and researching about him, I summarized him as the man who makes it rain. He's done so many different things with such success that, I struggled with what are we going to talk about during this podcast. So Chandler started his entrepreneurial journey after graduating from the University of Nevada at Reno with a degree in biochemistry and foregoing a medical pathway to pursue a brick and mortar wellness facility. He then pivoted to an online health practice a year before the COVID lockdowns. After scaling both businesses to the seven-figure level and doing 3,000 to 4,000 sales consultations, Chandler was frustrated with the way sales were taught. He was tired of the old school objection handling, aggressive tactics, salesy attitude taught by most sales trainers. So he looked back at what he was doing, combed through his notes, created Compassion Conversations, which I want to talk about. A therapeutic-driven, psychology-based sales system centered around compassion and care. Chandler's taught over 3,000 people his system of Compassion Conversations and has led the goal to change and redefine the landscape of sales altogether. Chandler also regularly invests in the crypto markets, which are going crazy right now. Thank you, Elon. And bought Ethereum when it was $15 and obtained a 20,000% increase, turning $250 into $50,000. So Chandler, thank you for bringing all your success and everything about your history to us here on the podcast to learn more.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about how I learned as a young kid how to hustle and bustle and how my innovative sort of mindset as a nerdy biochemist helped me create all these different platforms and ideas and not be afraid to make the leap and jump into new things.
That's so cool. So, blowing up sales, right? We all get the calls that are reading from a script and all the standard sales nonsense and, the people who call you 10 times and the email spamming. You kind of took that and totally turned it on its head and are doing something different. Maybe tell us a little bit about, that journey from, hey, this isn't working and I need to do something else. And what is the something else?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so as I was in my journey, I've noticed that I'm an innovator. And when I get frustrated with something, I create something out of it. And the problem I had with sales was I had this wellness practice. And my idea was to do this. I forewent medical school to be able to help people become better. But I was finding myself being coached by sales coaches to be manipulative, to bully people into making a decision, to be more aggressive. They were telling me if they cry, they buy. You got to stab them with a knife and poke it. And for me, I was like, that's not what I got into this game for. I got into this game to help people. But now I'm in this position to where I'm manipulating and bullying people to convince them to be better. I felt like such a hypocrite in that moment. And so I really took a deep dive into my communication patterns because as a kid, I grew up with a bipolar mom and I had to learn how to communicate in a neutral way without becoming overly emotional so I could work through the dealings with an emotional person. So I started looking at that and what I'd built inside of our wellness curriculum in terms of mental health and social health and some of the ideas surrounding that. And I took the concepts of cognitive behavior therapy, motivational interviewing, acceptance and commitment therapy, and a bunch of other psychology-based modalities and put together this sales system. And this sales system became a psychotherapeutic-driven system to create what I call compassion conversations or sell without manipulation, aggressive tactics, or really feeling salesy about it.
Which is awesome, right? So many times, I think people forget that it's the connection. It's the human, sorry. It's the human connection that builds a relationship and which is such a different way to once you create that, looking at the human side of it, right? That kind of the psych side of it versus, the textbook sales side of it. And you build these relationships and you understand people, it allows you to proceed at almost in a different space.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest thing you learn about sales isn't just sales. It's not the idea of this like specific thing where you have to say, like, my favorite is objection handling. What do you say when someone doesn't have enough money? Okay, well, here's my magical term. This is going to work for everybody. And it doesn't. It's not true. The idea behind sales
Mm.
is learning how to communicate in a way to where you can understand what the other human being wants. You can ask strategic questions to connect the dots to past events that have prevented success, then understand the triggers that have manifested that are creating the inability for them to be successful. And thereby, what you do is you take what an external statement is, like, I need more leads, I want to lose weight, and you move that into an internal, whatever the internal issue is. Like, if I don't get leads, I can't pay my mortgage and my kids are homeless. Or I want to lose weight because I'm disgusted with what I see and I don't want my spouse to see me naked. Those are real life scenarios that people are really thinking, but they won't tell you. And so, one of my philosophies and concepts behind this type of sales is achieving what we call level 5 listening or empathetic listening. So I need to be able to remove my ego and remove my own bias from the equation and ask people strategic questions to understand their situation, to be able to step into their head to help them understand what the real problem is. Because in reality, a lot of people have no idea what the real problem actually is. And so if all you do is ask superficial questions and like stab at pain points, you're not going to help them. But if you help them understand what's really happening, you now become a leader, someone worth listening, and someone they trust.
I love it. Right. So many times people don't, they just don't get that, right? Like they're pushing a product. I was talking to a sales guy yesterday. We were strategizing on a client together, and he was like, "Yeah, we got to try to sell this." And I was like, "You don't even understand what their problem is, right? You haven't listened to understand like what's their problem? What are they trying to solve?" And without doing that, sometimes people just push the product, and it's just the wrong answer because they're not listening to solve the problem that the person who they're interacting with or trying to sell to actually has. But all they have is a widget, right? And they're like, "You want our widget? Don't you want our widget? Whatever your problem is, our widget will solve it." And it's such a turnoff, right? That's where I think people go, "You don't understand me. You haven't listened to me. You don't understand my problems. Therefore, I don't want to buy from you."
Yeah, exactly. And that's when people think of you as the person who has commission breath. You're now the used car salesman. My favorite thing a used car salesman ever did to me was I walked on the lot and he looked at me and said, "What can I do to get you to buy today?" And I was like, "I guess you could ask better questions." And then he never came back. So it's like we need to get out of this mindset of, and this is one of my other philosophies, is detaching from the need to sell. If that guy came in and said, "Hey, what are you looking for?" And I'm like, "I want to buy something right now." "Okay, what do you want?" "Well, I want a truck." "Okay, well, what kind of truck?" "Oh, cool. Well, we have this and that and this and that. And because you said you have a family, because you said you had that, well, I think this would make sense. And because of, then I would have bought the thing that day." But the way he presented it, I was like, "All right, well, I guess we're not going to buy today." This guy just left and didn't ask good questions. And so I think if you can remove that idea of that commission breath and remove that idea of selling on features and benefits and move into, "Hey, because earlier you said this, I think this makes sense, because earlier you said that then this makes sense, and because you said this, then I think what we'll do is this." And it can be the core tenets of your offer, but you're offering no more and no less than what they need. If you give people too much, they'll want to think about it. If you talk about everything and all the features and benefits, now they're going to think all you want to do is sell them on this thing.
Yeah, a phrase comes to mind. One of the greatest books on sales I ever read was the Little Red Book on Sales. Quick read, but they always talk about sell till it's sold, right? And then stop talking. And so many times I remember I wanted to buy, I happened to buy a sports car, and I went in and I knew what I wanted, right? All the guy needed to do was show me what was available and such. And instead he's like just going on and on and on, talking to me about the performance characteristics of the car. And I'm like, "Yeah, I understand that. That's why I'm here, right?" It was such a turnoff because he didn't really listen, I guess, or understand or ask me any questions. I love that. Ask better questions, because he immediately just pitched into all his knowledge that he had learned from the dealership and the brand, which was, I guess, fantastic, but not impressive to me because I had already Googled that, and that was the reason I was there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. Like, we were trying to buy another car recently. Here's another fun used car experience I had. We walk in and I'm like, hey, my significant other, Steph, she wants to buy this car. She knows exactly what she wants, the make, model, and all that. So we walk in the dealership and they're like showing us around and we ask, I was like, hey, can we just order this thing? Like, I don't even care. I'll pay full retail price. I know things are marked up right now. I just get her whatever she wants and we'll take it. And because they're so attached to this sell today, they looked at us
Hmm.
and said, oh, we don't do that. We don't order cars. And I was like, oh, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because like your website says you do, a couple other dealerships were willing to order. Like, what's the difference? And then it turns into, oh, well, we could, but it takes longer.
Uh,
And then I'm like, well, okay, well, you're losing the sale because I'll pay full price right now. I don't even care. Whatever your commission is, I'll give it to you. Just let me order the freaking car.
yeah, yeah. How crazy. The you know. So you're obviously successful in sales, or you built these businesses. Some of the technology that you're using is kind of really hot today, right? Prior to starting the recording, we were talking about Web3, and a lot of people don't know what that is. They're like, "Isn't that just the web? Isn't that the internet?" Uh, or is that the cloud? Or so maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the tools that you use to allow you to grow these businesses of yours, and specifically kind of focus around what is Web3 and how does it help you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, let's do it. I think the core tenet behind Web3, and it's in its infancy right now. So not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people know how to use it. Not a lot of people even know it exists. And I guess the best representation of what Web3 could look like would be sort of the decentralized finance realm. But when you think about Web3, it's an open, permissionless system to where humans don't necessarily control what's actually happening. So in Web3, it's this system to where it's sort of like blockchain. It's agnostic to what a human control. It's open and permissionless, so people can like fork it, as we say, which is copy it and redo it, reuse it. You have a system of checks and balances that are open and everybody can see. Just like on blockchain, you can see transactions, you can see what people are doing. And so what it does is it brings this sort of like decentralized economy to the internet.
That is cool. I mean I think like it's like if we said blockchain, right? People are like, I don't
What's
understand
that?
it. Like, what is blockchain? And then it gets more complex because then people are like, oh, it's a security architecture, and it's like, well, not really.
Yeah.
Um, so many of so how are you using kind of Web3? You're kind of on the forefront there as an entrepreneur, leveraging it.
Yeah, good question. So, what I'm doing right now with Web3 is I'm heavily engaged in decentralized finance. And what I figured out is a strategy that I sort of call looping leverage. I guess I don't sort of call it, I just called it looping leverage. So, the
We're going to
strategy is
quote you
looping
on looping
leverage.
leverage.
That's
Yeah.
right. So there's two concepts here: looping leverage, and creating your pillow. And so what I've done in decentralized finance is created a strategy to where I use minimal risk to take my business profits and put them into the decentralized finance economy, and I earn anywhere from like 35 to 100% APR on my investments. And so then that compounds and grows, and I take that and I reinvest it back into the pool, and then I put a portion of it into what I call my pillow, which is essentially a layer of financial growth that I've built. So there's money that I have, there's money that goes in from all my investments and everywhere, and they all flow into this pillow. And then what happens is money that flows out of the pillow is now what I can spend and use, and I'm no longer using my own finances. My own finances sit there comfortably, and I'm creating my own finances out of what's entering into this economy or this atmosphere that I'm using, that I've built through decentralized finance.
I love it. The diversity, right, is amazing. Of course, you're a biochemist by training, so you'd expect, right, that inquisitive nature. But so far, we've talked about a wellness business. We've talked about crypto. We've talked about the tech stack that you're obviously familiar with. Now we just bridged finance. It's really kind of cool to see that diversity swirl. What I mean, what led you to this inquisitive nature, right? Of kind of an entrepreneur to just be like, most people pick one thing and they go deep and that's what they do, right? I mean, we've just talked about 4 or 5 things that you're simultaneously kind of dabbling in. What sparks Chandler to be that kind of guy?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I think about the levels of entrepreneurship, there's the entrepreneur, there's the manager, and then there's the technician. I find myself to be the entrepreneur. And what the entrepreneur is in its truest form is someone who builds and creates and then hires and installs managers and technicians to manage and continue it moving forward. And so what I like to do is innovate and create and adjust and modify and sort of like try to outperform myself, or what I like to say, put myself out of business. What can I create today that's going to put me out of business tomorrow? And ultimately, that's sort of what I've done and how I've led my business ventures and my environments. We go from wellness. I noticed there's a problem in sales. I create the sales product. Now I notice that I have money and I need somewhere to put it, but I don't like banks and I don't really want to put it in. I want to be on the forefront of earnings. So then I look into decentralized finance and DeFi and really understand that I can create a massive opportunity to compound on a business treasury there. And so ultimately what I see is the ability to keep building and keep innovating and then hiring managers and technicians to be able to continue the growth and support of the businesses as they move forward.
That's awesome. The kind of going back to sales a little bit, so many people struggle with sales, especially entrepreneurs that are starting to try to drive their own business and grow. What are some tips from someone who's been there, done that? We talked a little bit about the system that you created. What would you say some tips would be that you could give folks to just become better in sales? Uh-oh, that's not good. All right. And for those of you that are wondering, we did have a little break there. We both needed a drink of water, and it was technology driven. Technology said you guys need to take a break. You guys are doing so awesome. So we are back. We were the question I wanted to ask was around sales, and I think your approach is just so important because it's about the human connection and not about pushing widgets. What if somebody wanted to improve their sales game? Do you have any just tips that they could be like, okay, I'm going to go check out. I'm going to go check out how he does it, but maybe you could give them some just tips on how to improve their sales game.
Yeah, good call. So you had some water. I actually went and took a shot of whiskey. So I prefer Irish whiskey. I'm ready to go now. I just needed that little boost. But when I look at sales, what I think people need to understand is it's less about talking and more about listening. And so if you want to become better at sales, take the pressure off yourself. Stop talking. Stop asking questions. Just ask questions. Stop trying to be friendly with the person and just ask simple, pointed questions based off what they said. Someone says, I want more leads. Okay, cool. What makes you think you need more leads? Well, I haven't had any. I'm inconsistent. Oh, gotcha. Why do you think you're inconsistent? That seems to be a common problem. I just can't hire anybody good enough. And then you have to drill into what the real problem is. And this comes into cognitive behavior therapy and a technique called downward arrow technique. You ask a question based off each question. You go 5 or 6, 7 layers deep. You figure out the real problem. And now you can just pitch, because now it's, okay, now we understand the real problem. Now talk to me about how long that's been going on. So one of my tenets, once you figure out that real problem is, you don't just keep stabbing that. You don't want to make them a bag of tears, because then they're going to make a decision that they're going to regret and they're going to ask for a refund. So then once you figure out that real problem, now, okay, well, tell me a little bit how long that's been going on. Oh, I haven't been able to get my business going for the last 10 years. Wow, that's a long time. And so now I'm connecting the dots to understand the past. Okay, well, now I understand and recognize that you haven't been able to figure this out ever. You've hired 385 different agencies, or in the case of health, you've done 7,000 different diets, but none of them have worked. And so now we're shifting the frame of mind from what they think the problem is to what the real problem is, and they're going to start selling themselves. And all you did was ask questions. And then all you did was figure out how long it's been happening. And then the pitch, people put too much pressure on themselves. Your pitch should be 2 minutes. hey, because you said you've tried keto, pescatarian, the 48-hour Hollywood cookie diet, vegan, half vegan, random vegan, and all these different things, what we're going to do today is the no diet diet. We're not going to do any diets. Or because you've hired 745,000 different agencies and none of them have worked for you, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little different concept we call the no agencies platform. And so all you're doing is pitching them what they want and what they need based off what they said, and then you just stop talking. Like at the end of my pitch, I tell people, that's all I got for you today. What do you want to do from here? And they look at me and they're kind of confused at first, and they say, what, can I buy this thing? Can I get in? I'm like, well, I don't know. It depends. Do you really feel like you want it? Do you need this? And I like to joke and tell people, I will fight you tooth and nail to make sure you don't buy from me, to make sure that you really want it. And then when you do, you're totally committed and in.
I love that, right? Make them want it. For it's funny. I lead our innovation team, so we're innovating new consulting products for fairly large clients on a regular basis, and we always talk about that next step phase. And we're always like, we got to have next steps. We got to have like the close and the ask. And I'm like, and I've always said, if we do a good job talking to them and listening to them, then that next step should be their move. They should be like, wow, that is exactly what we need. That will really help us. How can we engage you guys, right? I want them asking me to come help them, not me going, oh, please, I need a sale. It's so pathetic to see when people are like that. I mean, I've had people even tell me like, hey, it's a quota thing. And I'm like, is there any way you can buy now? Because, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't even want to do business with you at that point. Like, that's just too pathetic. Like, your quotas didn't just come up. You've had them for a while and you obviously aren't making them. So something about you isn't driving with customers, and I'm not going to save you.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes into the human dynamics. It's if you want it really bad, or if I tell you I really want it, what can you do to buy today? I'm going to push away because I don't want it anymore. I smell that commission breath. And humans love to buy things, but they hate being sold. So the second they feel like they're being sold, they're out. And when you're speaking to like a board or a group of people, if they start asking questions, oh, how do we get started? How do we make this work? They're in. But if you are up there telling them they need it, why? Here's the features and benefits. They don't care. They're going to want to think about it. They're going to want to talk to people, and they're not going to jump into it. And so understanding those dynamics, understanding that if you help them move to a position to where they say they want it, they're in. But if you say they want it, they're not. They'll doubt it.
I love it. And it seems so simple, right? There's so much stuff out there on sales. I always say, find somebody who you resonate with, who you're like, ooh, I love what he's saying, right? And then go further, right? Find out more about that person. So as much as Chandler looks like a man of mystery, he's really not. So you can find more about Chandler, obviously. Chandler Walker, his links and stuff will be down below. So you have a system or a training program. And it's at 9step.cultureofcare.life. Talk to me a little bit about what's in the training system if folks are interested to find out more.
Yeah. So basically what we give you in that sales system is I give you my entire 9-step framework. So how to open, how to talk, how to do discovery, how to pitch, how to transition, literally, I just give you everything, because then people come back to me to teach them how to do it. And that's my philosophy. Just, you can have it all and then come to me and I'll teach you the exact methods to do it. And so that's available at 9step.cultureofcare.life, not .com, but .life. Right. And if you download that, you'll have everything you need to make sales right now. It essentially gives you the framework.
That's pretty cool. So many times, right? I have guests that I just love the spirit of giving, that a lot of guests have. Like you're giving them again the information, and if it resonates, and then they're like, oh, I got to get badass at this, then you're a resource, right? That they can reach out to, and get a coach, right? I mean, every guest I have, I'm always like, we need coaches, right? We need coaches to be better men, better people, better fathers, better husbands, right? It's okay to get some help and some guidance from people that have been there and done that you look up to help you along the way. It's Nothing. That's just my public service message. I think, for, especially guys are always like, I don't need any help. I can do this myself. It's like, okay, let me
Yeah.
know after you've beaten your head against a rock, when you want some help.
Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, you can do it yourself. And I mean, 15 years down the road, you might figure it out, or maybe you could fast track it, but it's your choice. I need you to make it. Just remember, at the end of the day, the only thing we never get back is time. That money's going to come and go, but that time you spent wishing, waiting, wanting, it's gone and you never get it
Yeah,
back. So choose wisely.
I love it. I want to talk a little bit about the crypto side of Chandler, because your story is also very cool there. You saw something, you bought Ethereum at $15. I'm sure it's not $15 today. It's like, I tell folks, I bought, um, crypto, when it was cheap, and then I was like, I got scared and I got out, right? And I was like, and then it just kept going, and I was like, oh well, shit,
Yeah,
that
darn
was
it.
that was a bad idea. But um, so you also help folks around crypto. Let's talk a little bit about that, maybe some of the successes you've had, and then talk a little bit maybe about the crypto market, right? People are like, should I go into crypto? Should it be part of a portfolio? Should I go all crypto? Should I, leverage my house and go into crypto? I've heard all kinds of craziness around crypto.
Yeah, I think crypto, and what really got me into crypto in the beginning was getting in things early. And then it moved into understanding DeFi and how I can earn ridiculous rates of return that I can use to reinvest back into my portfolio should I want. But I think the first thing you have to understand when you're investing in crypto and really investing in general is you have to learn how to think. And this is something people just don't do. They get into something, and like you said a minute ago, and they get scared and they get out. But the problem is a lot of people get scared when the thing tanks and they panic sell out or they run away. And so what you have to do originally when you're doing this is understanding your time frame of investments. If I invest in this, am I okay sitting on it for 4 years? Am I okay sitting on it for 8 years? Do I want to sit on it for 10 years? What is my time frame? Am I okay if do I need money tomorrow? So understand your time frame and then set yourself up to collect coins over that period of time and eventually cash out or take profits when you see it's coming up. And I think that's the first step. So like me, I bought Ethereum. It was $15 a coin. Ethereum that year pumped to $1,500 a coin, which was pretty incredible because my portfolio went up a lot. And then I collected a little bit of profits, but kept a ton of it and then waited again. And now this recent time it peaked up at like $4,700. So from 15 to 47 was a pretty good bump. So take some profits off there, still hold a bunch of it. Next time it'll peak somewhere around maybe 10K. I'll take a little bit more off. But my investing horizon and when I did it, probably because I'm a giant science nerd, was understanding how to critically analyze my investment and my time frame for it. And then understanding my first tenet is find the problem. So what I did with Ethereum was I bought that at the $15 a coin. And then down the road, I was like, okay, this is cool. I made a lot of money here. What's the problem with Ethereum though? Okay, it's congested and gas fees are ridiculous. And when you think about Ethereum, say you're going into the store to buy a 7-Up and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy my 7-Up. Okay, your 7-Up's $9 with inflation right now. But your gas fee with Ethereum is $200. So now your 7-Up is $209. And then you're like, wait, hold on. This isn't practical. So that was the big problem with Ethereum. So then I looked, okay, what is a scaling solution for Ethereum that makes sense? And I found Polygon or Matic. And back then when I got into it, it was like 10 or 20 cents. And Polygon Matic bumped up to like $3 or $4. And so then all of a sudden, Polygon was a huge bump for me. And so then I did it again. And I said, okay, well, what's the next? What's coming up next? And I started looking at, okay, video games, metaverse. And Decentraland came to mind back then. It was just this dumb little coin sitting on Coinbase for like 20 or 30 cents a coin. Nobody cared about it. I bought a bunch and that thing pumped up to $5. And so what I've learned in crypto is it's not buying meme coins. It's not buying junk. It's not hoping something's going to pump today. It's finding the problem associated with something that worked really well, getting into that, riding the wave, and then taking a little bit of profits and skimming, but not really worrying about sort of your short-term time frame mindset on it.
I love that. Somebody told me, and I was just like, you just don't understand investing or really math. But what they told me is they said, well, I don't want to invest in anything that's like under $1. And I'm like, the price has nothing to do with it, right? You're playing the percentage increase.
Exactly.
If you put a penny, well, a penny is a bad example because it never really compounds. But, if you put a certain amount into a bank and you get 2% growth or 2% interest on it, eventually it becomes more than that original dollar amount. It's just a percentage multiplier of growth. And it's the same thing, whether the coin's 0.00001 cent and goes to an actual penny, that's exponential growth of that coin, which is a multiplier of whatever amount of money you have in there. And it's math, right? And math doesn't change. It's just more than what you put in. No, no, this is crazy. I'm so sad. I'm sad. Let's see. Chandler and I are working to defy the universe that is trying to keep us from sharing all this knowledge, because it's we've had a blip twice now, which is crazy. So we were talking a little bit about crypto and kind of your journey on crypto. Some people shy away from these low, penny cryptos. They equate them to like penny stocks, but they're really not, right? Even if crypto is 1 cent and it goes to 10 cents, that's a 10-time return on your investment. So is there any fear around, this? There used to be like a crypto, then there was a couple, then there was a 10. Now there's like 10,000 cryptos, it seems. I bought Uniswap because it has a unicorn as the logo. Don't no feedback on that. I know that's not the way to invest, but I bought just a silly little amount, and it's gone up, and it's been cool, and it's like a penny crypto. Any thoughts on low dollar crypto?
Yeah, good question. And I bought Uniswap for my 3-year-old daughter, and she makes me check her portfolio every day for where her unicorn coin is at. So
That's awesome.
she's pumped about it, helping her understand investing too. But I think when you think about crypto and coins, they typically launch less than $1. Bitcoin was 10 cents at one point, and if you bought that at 10 cents, you're now probably a billionaire. Ethereum, same thing. These coins typically launched less than a penny or right at a penny or somewhere around like 40, 50 cents. And so it's different than the stock market, where you have like the OTC market with penny stocks that are often, they're unregulated. They might not survive. It's Wild West. Well, crypto's also the Wild West. So you do have to do your due diligence. But I don't think part of that due diligence is saying, I don't want to buy a coin that's 10 cents or something, because you're shooting yourself in the foot in the possibility of getting into things super early. Some of the coins will start at, you may go from $40 to $1,200. Some coins like I got may go from 10 cents to $4, but you're still getting that spread. What you really need to look at in crypto and projects to make sure they're functioning, they're okay, is what I typically look at is, what's the use case? Is it usable? Does it solve a problem for people? Does it solve a problem for a bigger equation? And who's the team behind it? What's the investor strategy behind it? What was the token allocation? Is it just a pump and dump coin? And then once I understand those different things behind it, then I can make a smart investment. And I think if that's too much for the average person, just look at the top 10 and make your investment portfolio. What I tell people is go 50% Bitcoin, maybe 40% Bitcoin, 30% Ethereum, 20% in stable coins, basically coins that stay at $1, so you can buy dips if you want, and then sprinkle in the top 10. And if something leaves the top 10, sell it and replace it. And then you've got yourself an index fund in crypto.
I love it. That's a cool way to look. I've never heard that strategy, but that diversification really makes a lot of sense. I don't think a lot of people understand that crypto is based in kind of the concept that you, right, it's founded on something. In the case of Bitcoin, it is a finite amount of Bitcoin. It's not, they're just continuously creating Bitcoin. At some point, there will be no more Bitcoin. And when there is no more, right, then value goes up, right? The scarcity of the item is expected to drive something like Bitcoin. But for every coin, you can do your research. Coinbase is a great application, and it'll tell you the foundation of that coin. And I love what you just said. Like, I always tell people, don't buy stocks that you don't relate to, right? Like, if you have kids, when my kids were young, we owned Microsoft because they understood what Microsoft was, and we could have conversations about Microsoft. Is Microsoft doing well? And they knew what we were talking about. We owned Coca-Cola at the time. For the same reason, right? They understood what Coke was, and it was a fun brand to own. Don't buy shit you don't like or don't understand or don't believe in, but take the time to understand it. and I just love like that guidance you just put out around crypto. It's concise and it's spot on.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's super important. And really understanding what you're buying is huge. It's like my 3-year-old. She knows we have unicorn coin. I also have some Bitcoin we bought for her. Like she has a portfolio, but she likes her unicorn coin and we check that. She likes her Polkadot coin and we check that. She likes owning Disney. She likes owning these things that she relates to and understands, like you're saying. So it makes it fun and it teaches her, even if she doesn't recognize it yet, how to do her due diligence and buying into things she recognizes and understands.
I love it. So, like I said, Chandler's a guy who makes it rain. Your diversification is awesome. I appreciate what you put down. If folks want to learn more about crypto from you, you also have a kind of course around crypto. Talk to me a little bit about maybe what that is.
Yeah, basically, if you want to learn more about crypto and my 3-step strategy, so finding the problem, creating looping feedback, and essentially setting up your pillow, just go to crypto.cultureofcare.life. And I put together a little video that'll kind of talk through the whole strategy. And then it'll link you to my YouTube channel where there's probably, I think there's several dozen videos on crypto and DeFi themselves. And it also has a link to a private chat that I have with a bunch of people in the Signal Messenger app where they ask questions and I'm in there going back and forth and we just help the community. We do workshops, teach people what it means, what decentralized finance is, good allocations behind crypto. We talk about scams and how to avoid them. So it really helps lead you in the right place. And that's crypto.cultureofcare.life.
I love it. I love that you're just putting the knowledge out there with the intent to help folks learn and grow. Whether you're getting into crypto or not, the same rule applies with like life coaching and being better in sales, right? Is find somebody who you can relate to and go, yeah, that makes sense to me. And then learn from them, right? Learn and grow and become better every day. It seems so simple, and there's so many people out there trying to help and sure, there's a cost usually for training and such, but it's an investment of your time and their time and usually well worth it. So, Chandler, thank you for being on the podcast. Chandler's also a fellow podcaster. I always want to make sure I plug your podcast, and your podcast is called?
It's called Chan's Logic Culture of Care. So we build a culture of care in everything we do so we can expand who we are and what we create.
I love it. It's always great to have another podcaster on. We were talking mics and geeking out on podcasting prior to the recording, which is very cool. So, Chandler, again, thank you for sharing the knowledge. And links to Chandler's sites will be down below so that you can connect with him and go check out the training. Again, he provides kind of the 9 steps out there for download, and then his 3 steps on the wealth system. Is also out there when you exchange your contact info. So again, thanks, Chandler. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I just tell people I'm too dumb to stop learning, so eventually I achieve mastery, and that's kind of the goal in life.
that might be the quote for the podcast.
Put it on there. I'm just too dumb to stop learning.
I love it. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully we gave some value and everybody enjoyed it and had a good time.
I hope so.